another thing we as a society, one thing that like is fear of being policed. How we receive policing makes us like fear to like engage in such conversations, because we know that
next thing I'm gonna trend
exactly
on Twitter. Next thing I'm gonna be bashed around.
The fact I feel like there's also like a thin line between that and hate. It's more like that whole thing of being phobic and preference. There's like, it can be blurred. You can say I'm expressing how I feel, but that's hate.
But I feel like in that expression, I'm acknowledging that I may be flawed in my expressions. I may be flawed in my perspectives, and share them
goes
with.
On to the fact that
not your good. I'm saying this is what it is. This is how it should be. And if when you're against me, then you are fine. That's not what I'm saying. But
the fact that
these are my views, and I'm owning up to them.
The fact that if I say certain things and they don't sound like politically correct, chances of me getting this degree and it working for me are slim. None.
What do you mean?
As a lawyer,
what do you mean?
There are certain things that must not be on your Instagram, Facebook. Like there's a lot of, but you don't just get a degree and then you get to be a lawyer. There's a whole
that your past can come back to bite you.
Exactly, code of conduct that you need to sort of fall under. They call it what? They call it a fit person. Are you a fit person?
But my thing with that is very problematic, because you cannot, and that is very unfair. You cannot compare 12-year-old Hope to 36-year-old Hope.
Because you
what happens to human progression?
And another thing that we must be aware of, sometimes we say things out of what we've been socialized into. We've been taught all our lives being non-straight is wrong. And the only thing you've been doing is spewed hate. Because of how you've been raised and what you've been socialized into. The minute you're like 20 and you start making your own sane decisions, you're like, actually,
yeah. That post I did in 2014.
In 2014.
Very flawed.
Very flawed. And you realize this because you start being an individual. You start developing and being your own person.
I get that. But one thing that I've fully, especially when it comes to starting this channel and conversations that I have on this channel and just my platforms throughout, my social media platforms throughout, is that I've always been very aware of the fact that my past can come back to bite me in the ass, no matter which sort of career I take, whether it's
at the end of the day,
it's just the things that I want to do, they might come back to bite me. So I've always been one that 5 years down the line, Hope, you can still be held accountable for the views that you're sharing on here. It's very tricky.
It's very tricky
because it's like, how do I be present in this moment
and I feel like another
what
thing
I feel in this moment,
like the Dr. Lushaba thing, it was like blown out of proportion. People could sort of like take whatever.
People take whatever they can to
manipulate it
to work to what
narrative.
they are saying. So it's a tricky world we live in.
It's tricky because if they take something I said and not play the whole clip to the court, for money, that would be disbarred.
Me, I'm ready to dispute it.
And like one
thing about me, I'm ready to fight.
If
there's one thing that UCT has taught me, is to fight. Any means necessary, yeah. So,
because I feel like more.
Because then if we're gonna go through life with that kind of mindset, Guti, I always need to be being politically correct. I need to make sure Guti, this won't come back in the future, and make
a whole
my
lot
chances.
of things won't be unlearned.
Yeah,
there's a lot
of
unlearning that needs to happen.
If someone is trying to push a certain narrative about you, They will go to any means. Anything you have ever said in your life can be questionable if I'm trying to pursue a certain, or I'm trying to
Agenda,
showcase a
yeah.
certain agenda. I can use anything and everything. The thing that you said in your politics essay in first year, that in conclusion, just before you wrote a full stop, I can use it against you if that's what I want to do. So we can't go around in life out of fear with I must not say this in this manner. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have used that
And
word.
also, I feel like we that's how we the unlearning part of things, the decoloniality of things, everything.
If I'm
happens.
unable to express my
Exactly.
current views, then you can never find fault in my
Exactly.
train of thought. That means that we are just in a circle of everyone hiding what they're actually thinking, but they're actually thinking it.
The what unlearning process is happening.
It's happening there, non-zero.
Hey, but no, it is difficult in day
Yeah.
life.
This life thing is a difficult thing. This life thing. One thing about life.
But I guess after all, we just sort of have to maneuver
And find our way around it.
And if there's one thing about me is that I'm open. I understand. I'm not one person who's.
That's what I
allow
appreciate
a lot
about our generation. I think we're a very open generation, and as time, because sometimes I think we are open until certain situations come, then we actually.
I feel like
hey, yeah.
for change is not.
It's not
It's
easy.
not like easy. It's not like a thing that we can just. If we could, like, we'd wake
And
up and be like,
it's not very linear. It's
Yeah,
not very.
yeah, it's
good.
not a
Okay,
linear
we are
process,
changed. We
yeah,
are all
good.
going this way,
yes,
guys.
yes.
There will some people who are like, I actually.
There'll be a
Let's take
pushback of
M3,
some sort.
And someone's like, oh, actually, no, guys.
Because at the end of the
M5.
day, we are socialized into being the the kind of people we are. I cannot be taught something for 20 years. I'm now like 22.
Yeah.
And at
And learn it
22,
in 5
I have
months.
to learn everything I have to unlearn everything I've learned all my life in a day. That's impossible.
impossible.
That's why I bring in my views and be like, okay, cool. I now understand the flaws in my views.
Yeah.
I understand what's wrong
And I
about
feel
my
like
views.
that goal should be the bigger end goal.
Mm.
People, because you can't change people's mindset by saying to them, this is how you're supposed to be thinking.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be about teaching you how to think, but making you aware of the flaws in your train of thought. So then you are able to, every thought that comes down, you're able to take a step back and
And
say,
be like, okay, cool.
good, how is my thought
the
flawed?
different dimensions, like the different
Yeah.
views to it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, I think I've been very politically incorrect in this episode. But
Like I said at
This
the
is-
beginning of this episode, that I don't really love sounding politically correct,
yeah,
because that it's
it
dishonest.
hinders. Yeah, it hinders.
It's dishonest.
It
'cause
hinders honest conversation.
the minute I start trying to, there'll be a lot that I sort of reserve. There'll be a lot of conversations that we aren't gonna be heard
Yeah.
because of me pushing back and trying to think, what if I say this and it comes as offensive? Of course, that's not my intent.
Yes.
However, I'm willing to be corrected and to be sort of like given a different perspective to it. Because if there's one thing about me, I'm open. There's a whole lot of bunch of
Ooh. But I also think that as much as we need to be open, let's not be too open to nonsense.
Yes,
Because some things are just not
So ile thing isho ukuthi as this, it's more that whole thing.
I'm open to hearing what you have to say, but I don't have to accept it.
It's that whole thing, Yobana. There's also like a thin line between opinions and hate.
Ooh, yes.
But like if if I'm going to say that what? If I'm going to say that, I wanted to make an example about this one religion, but you are bangan attack But there's this one religion that is the superior of religions. They sort of think like, if you fall outside of that, you need to be saved. Do you know that whole type of thing, Yobana? If you don't fall within the margins of our religion, then you need deliverance. If you start believing in something else,
So like if you're not this, then there's something
yes,
wrong.
there's something wrong with you. You know the religion.
Then your faith is being questioned.
Exactly,
And
how come are you not this? Because this is what
everyone else is.
All the things you like. If you like. I feel like another thing that's important that we lack is like having conversations, being informed. Do a bit of research before you have opinions.
Sure.
Cause I can't go on a
Full right.
public platform and speak about genocide of Armenians, for instance, without having studying what that, like the
Firstly,
historical
just
things.
there's a historical, there's a lot, because now you're putting the history of genocide and why it's even considered genocide. Because the crazy thing, when was I reading this thing? See, now we are going off topic, but I think there was an article about the fact that genocide only started getting labeled as genocide when white people were being killed.
Lushaba.
Gandhi before. It was Lushaba, ne? That sounds like him, ne? It's like it only started getting named and labeled as genocide when white people were getting killed.
And that's
whereas you look at our history, you have black people that have been brutally murdered and brutally killed.
But it was
never genocide. It's just like it's just murder.
Because even if you check the whole genocide, the word genocide on its own. If you check, if you look at the UN, the laws of genocide,
yeah.
Think about it. But
Askolab. That's a conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm. It's at even these multilateral institutions. For me, I do questions all these laws and be like, oh, now you know that that's a thing that should be a human right.
It should be a human right. Now suddenly you know.
Because even if you check like a whole lot of we're being off topic.
Yeah, now we're going off.
But even if you check like the whole women's rights, human rights, it was recognized when white women stood up and be like, we are fighting for our rights.
That's why they're saying that we especially when it comes to like women's rights and all of that stuff, is that the fact that these white women are not standing with black women, that in itself means they are being what's the word? What's the word?
What?
They are being hey English gone. They are.
I know.
You know when you're an accomplice. I'm a criminal crime shows, but you know when you're an accomplice, you don't get charged as the perpetrator, but you get charged as the accomplice. So now they're saying that white women who refuse to stand in solidarity with black women are basically accomplices of patriarchy, and they actually also strive off of that, because you know that you being in solidarity with black women, you standing in solidarity with black women would drive so much change, and you refusing to do it means that you are being compliant. You're being an accomplice to the whole movement of patriarchy and stuff like that, because it works in your favor.
It's
compliant. You're being a.
You are compliant.
You're compliant.
Yes.
Guys, it's 1 a.m. Please.
But ke isilungu kakade sithethwa between the office hours kaloku.
As I'm saying, it's funny.
Office hours. Because even if you check like the recognized historical movements of women's rights, look at those. If you're doing gender studies last year, which ones were
I still
listed?
do it this year.
Which ones were listed as? Which one were recognized? This was a woman's